I teach 8th grade science and at Commerce Middle School, and we were doing understanding moon phases. So this is where TI Inspire meets the 5E lesson plan for learning. First thing we did is they engaged with I don't know what they did. They took a month's worth of moon phases, and they had to look at it, and they had to decide how much of that moon was actually illuminated, and they had to make a prediction on, how much of the percentage. Well, that was a big jump because they were like, "What if I'm wrong?" It's a hypothesis. You cannot be wrong. So they were kind of like, well, okay. After they did about 20, the last 10 were easier, but the first 20 was a hit. So they had to put this, first they wrote it on paper, which, that's another story. We won't go there today, but they wrote it on paper, and then they inputted that into their calculator. We have these great TI calculators in the math and science department at the middle school, and they put those in. They'd only been using them in math, and we got to use them in science. They were so excited. They put them in, put their data in, and just like magic, we got a nice little graph there of the moon phases. And I've taught for a long time, and I've taught moon phases for a long time. I have never thought of doing moon phases this way. So I was like, okay. And even at this point, I was still like, I don't see they were into it. They were absolutely into moon phases before. Then we took from where it's fully illuminated. So that huge piece for my kids. A lot of them, now this was where the choice was. Some of them chose not to do this part of it. I've got moon phases, they said. I don't need to do that. Okay, don't do it. But after we took the test, I think they needed to have that model in their hand. We also used the TI calculators, and they got to depict a lunar and a lunar eclipse, and then you can see one of my students there showing me where you would have to be standing for that to have occurred. So they took from the calculator to that. Then, well, I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, they took the graph that they had made, and they actually put the moon phases on it, labeled where the moon phases were on their graph. When they did that piece, that's when they got it. All of a sudden, waning and waxing made sense to them. But until then, a lot of them couldn't see it. And then the test question was there, and they had to, on the test, now little did I know, because I don't look at the test while I'm teaching. I only look at the test right before I'm running the sucker off. But they were having to make a bar graph for the moon phases on their test. They did that line graph on the TI, then they had to make a bar graph, and they were all like, but we didn't do a bar graph on the TI. I said, but they're asking you to do one here. Can you turn what you did on that to that? And they were like, well, okay. And so they just went off and did it, and that was another thing. They were really, I think for a lot of them, it made all the difference in the world having to see the graph. And I never would have done that. 30 years of teaching, I never would have gone there. I'll do that now from now on, but so I learned something. And because I don't have a lot of technology in my room, we tweeted on slips of paper. That was interesting too, because to give them 140 characters to tell me everything they learned, that was hard. You mean every letter counts and every space counts, and what do you want me to say to you exactly? And so, but these are what some of them actually said. I actually understood the moon phases. The calculator helped me see the moon in a different way. I liked using the models to help me explain the graph created. So they loved it. They comments that some said was, that's what's wrong. You old people are into stuff that's meant for young people. Mouse of babies. I don't know what to tell you.